Hi, is this Mr. Ted Leo?
Yes, it is.
Ted, this is Jeff Beam from the University of Southern Maine's newspaper, The Free Press. How you doing today?
All right, how are you?
Not bad. Thank you for taking time out of your day to answer a few questions with us. Really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
All right, first question for you, Ted. You've been known to write a few political songs every now and then, and a lot of artists shy away from this because they're afraid of either some kind of backlash or polarizing their fans. Have you encountered something like this, or has the response for writing political songs generally been pretty positive?
For the most part, it's been, I think, considered positive by people who would call themselves my fans. I mean, it's not something new that I've done, and I think that most people who, especially if they've been into my music for a while, then chances are that they come from a background in the kind of punk and indie world when it wasn't such an anomaly to be writing political songs,
Right.
So it doesn't, it's not something that, I think in some senses it's not something that probably surprises people at all, but in another sense, I think that for the most part, I've found that people appreciate it. I mean, having said that, there have been times when people have definitely said to me that they don't agree with my politics.
Right.
And but they like my music.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, what can I say to that?
Right.
I'm glad that they are fans. I certainly wouldn't want to exclude them from enjoyment of the music. But if the politics alienate them, all I can say is sorry.
Right on. I read somewhere that you wrote most of your songs for Shake the Sheets in kind of one block of time, and it's been a little over 2 years since Shake the Sheets came out, and I'm just wondering if your songwriting differs.
Like 3 now. So.
Yeah, that's right. Does your songwriting differ a lot when writing songs in one block of time versus spreading it out over 2 or 3 years?
Somewhat, yeah. But I mean, that also it's hard to really credit that entirely to the length of time that it takes to write something. I mean, the songwriting on Shake the Sheets is a little different than the songwriting on Living with the Living, but that also was because I wanted it to be. I wanted the Shake the Sheets songs to be much more kind of short and concise. Right. And, I wanted to make a more kind of urgent feeling record at that particular time. And it just so happened that I was able to write it all in a fast block, which probably contributed to what I was trying to do with it anyway, whereas this most recent record, it's kind of the same sort of thing where, my ideas for it were that I wanted it to be a little more expansive and broad. And the nature of the fact that, it took me almost 2 years to get it all together, certainly probably aided in that process as well.
Right on. You've kind of settled into the full band sound after a few albums now. Do you have any plans to go back to record anything, similar to your experimental kind of first album, or like even another solo album?
Actually, yeah, I do. I couldn't give you a timeline on that,
right.
But it's definitely something that I want to do again, and probably soon. It might be the kind of thing where I'm thinking that maybe I'll do something. Maybe I'll do some solo songs and not release it as an official record, but just put it up for download or something. But
very cool.
I'm going to do something like that soon. Actually, we have a really long break after this tour, and it'll probably be in that time period that I get back to doing that, because that's I love doing the band thing, but it's actually really fun for me to break out of that format every now and then, and just play some shows alone where they can be a little looser, and I can play a lot of covers and goof around and whatnot, and I do want to write some more songs along those lines too.
Very cool. Looking forward to that. You've been touring pretty steadily since Living with the Living came out, and you're coming to Portland, Maine this Sunday. Have you ever played in Maine before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a we played in Portland. I think when the last time was. It may have been right after Shake the Sheets came out, actually.
Wow.
So probably about 3 years ago. Though I think it was in the summer, so it was probably like between 3.5 and 2.5 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but it was a couple of years ago.
Cool. Well, good to have you back. And the ticket price is, $10 for this show. How are you able to keep your ticket prices so low and keep touring the country without going completely broke?
Well,
or are you going broke?
It depends on what kind of places you're playing, and what kind of deal you're doing with it. I mean, without boring people with all the logistical specific stuff,
right.
Booking shows and whatnot. It's it's a place like the Space doesn't have a ton of overhead costs. It's not a big club which has 100 people on staff and 30 bars and tons of electricity to use up every night. So they're able to keep their costs low. So we're able to keep our costs low, and you pass that savings on to the consumer. Very
cool. I like it. Just after the Athens Pop Fest in August, your bassist Dave Lerner played his last show with you. Do you have a permanent replacement yet?
That remains to be seen. I want the guy who's been playing with us since Dave left. I'll go on record because maybe this will force his hand a little bit. He's an old friend, and I want him to keep playing with us. He's just not sure if he can tour as much as we do. So,
all right, very
it's
cool.
up in the air. Yeah, but he's been, it's been, God. I mean, we've played a ton of shows with him already by now. Actually,
right.
It's been fantastic. So
cool. I'd like to point out to everybody that you're a terribly underrated guitarist, and I'm wondering who some of your influences are.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
I don't often get. We don't really talk about my guitar playing very often. Influences. Well, I think when I started playing guitar, I was doing something which I was doing kind of only the kind of guitar playing, which now is certainly still a big part of what I do, but thankfully it's not the only thing that I do. But initially, I think my guitar playing was really influenced by both reggae, but more so like 60s R&B and soul, and a very kind of percussive playing, where you're also kind of using your kind of quick strumming technique as a percussive element in the song, and not just a melodic element in the song.
Very cool.
And that certainly still pretty much kind of forms the basis of how I play guitar. But I've also been hugely influenced by power chord rockers like Pete Townsend, obviously, and other people like that, as well as probably the most important element is actually a lot of kind of folk music, especially of the kind of Celtic, stringing. It's what it's when I do wind up soloing and stuff, it often veers off into that kind of territory. People like Richard Thompson and thousands of unnamed folk players over the years have influenced me.
Right on, very cool. What music are you listening to these days, recently?
What am I listening to recently? I just listened to the Kinks while I was working out this morning.
Right on. That was one of my questions.
To Phoenix while I was driving around yesterday.
Cool. Good stuff. Wondering, who is your favorite member of the Teen Girl Squad?
Favorite member of what?
Your favorite member of the Teen Girl Squad on Homestar Runner.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Probably the ugly one.
Yeah. Right on.
Or maybe so-and-so. I don't know. It's
so hard to choose sometimes.
All of their charms,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Who do you think will win this season of Project Runway?
What do I think of it?
No, who do you think will win this season?
This season? I have no idea. I actually really liked the flower shop guy who got axed in the last episode. But he didn't come through, So.
All right, so it could be anybody.
I don't know. I'm actually, it's going to be a tough call. It's going to be a tough call on this one.
All right, cool. We'll have to wait.
I don't actually really like too many of the people on this season. They all seem a little, self-involved.
I agree, totally.
Which, I mean, it's all relative. They've always all been self-involved, but more so than,
Absolutely. My last question for you, if you could say one thing to Joe Strummer, what would you say?
If I missed the first part of that.
Oh, if you could say one thing to Joe Strummer, what would you say?
You want to get a drink?
Very nice. Cool. All right, well, thank you, Ted, for joining us, and really appreciate your time and looking forward to seeing you at the Space on Sunday.
All right, right on.
Take it easy.